This episode of the Fans Talk Pro Wrestling Podcast has been brought to you by our friends in the Squared Circle of Trust. You can become a member today to access exclusive content as well as early access to content just like this. Head on over to fanstalkprowrestling.com, click the big green button, and start supporting us by pledging a few dollars a month today.
Beard!
From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 300 of Fans Talk Pro Wrestling, and tonight is our WWE Royal Rumble 2016 review. Plus, we will begin officially the road to WrestleMania. My name is Garvin, and with us tonight is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Howdy, howdy.
And Joe. Say hello, Joe.
Shucky ducky quack quack.
Wait, I didn't have the graphic ready. Can you do that again?
All right, hold on. Shucky ducky quack quack.
Okay,
cool.
Good. We got it that time.
Cool.
All right, so Royal Rumble just happened. SmackDown is currently being taped right now in Orlando. I know this because I am just outside of Orlando, and my sister is there and is posting pictures on Facebook, and I'm totally jealous, but that's okay. But Royal Rumble happened this weekend, so yeah, let's just get into it. I'll read the results, and then we can go match by match and talk about everything, or just talk about, what was important for us. So, Royal Rumble 2016 started off with a kickoff match to determine who would, advance into the Royal Rumble. It was a 4-team tag team match. So we had Darren Young and Damian Sandow versus the Dudleys versus the Ascension versus Mark Henry and Jack Swagger. Mark Henry and Jack Swagger won. Dean Ambrose successfully defended the IC title against Kevin Owens. Kalisto won the U.S. Championship against Alberto Del Rio. Charlotte successfully defended the Divas Championship against Becky Lynch. The New Day are still your tag team champions, defeating the Usos. And in the WWE Royal Rumble match to determine who would be the WWE Heavyweight Champion heading into WrestleMania, and your winner was not Roman Reigns, it was Triple H. So, yeah. What was the match of the night? Let's start there.
Match of the night, I would have to say, would be the Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens match. That was a fantastic match. Those guys really gave it their all. And on a pay-per-view where everything's usually generally forgettable, it's basically filler till the Rumble, props to them.
Yeah, last man standing, hands down. Those two have put on the best matches for a while now. And that final spot where Owens is setting up for a moonsault through the chairs and Ambrose pushes him off through 2 stacked tables. I love the way those two sold the entire time, and Kevin Owens just kept on selling on through Raw. I assume he's selling tonight on SmackDown too. So those two guys did an amazing job.
And just for the record, Kevin was amazed by that match. As far as he actually gave Kevin Owens props. So,
well, Kevin Owens didn't talk though, so.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys as far as that match being the match of the night. I thought they did from the start to the finish, it was just a fantastic match all the way around. And the fact that, not just that they continued it to Raw and maybe SmackDown this week, but that they continued it into the Royal Rumble match itself, I thought was just great. That that Kevin Owens was still showing, that he was hurt, and Dean Ambrose came down still showing that he was hurt, but they still had that anger and that fierceness against each other. I thought it was just really cool. It was a good way to tell that story, from the beginning of the pay-per-view throughout the end of the pay-per-view. So yeah, I'm with you. As far as matches go, though, there really wasn't a bad match at all this event. I think, at least for me, the one that stood out as mostly mediocre, or at least feeling a bit sloppy, was the U.S. Championship match. Kalisto, ADR, they just don't seem to have really great chemistry. And, granted, I did not see the Raw match where Kalisto won, but, this match, it just seemed like they were on two different pages and neither could hit a move cleanly.
No, ADR still doesn't care, and I really don't see that changing until he leaves. He might have come back for a shit ton of money, but, his heart's just not in it. And frankly, I don't blame him, but it still sucks to watch.
Yeah, I wanted more out of it. But you're right. Del Rio he tanked it, and I think it threw Kalisto off his game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when I think back of other matches that we've had with Kalisto, I mean, you had that really bad Elimination Chamber match for Kalisto. But outside of that, like, every other match that he's had, every spot has looked crisp and good. The way he works in the ring is very solid. So to see this, I'm with you. I can't necessarily blame Kalisto. It was almost like ADR was the one that was train wrecking it. So yeah, I'm definitely in agreement there. But yeah. But other than that, the rest of the pay-per-view I thought was very good. It's definitely one that I would recommend watching if you wait to hear whether or not we suggest that you watch pay-per-views from 3 days ago. But I would recommend it.
Yeah, I personally would not recommend yeah.
What was that, Nick?
I personally was not a fan of how either the Divas title match or the Rumble ended. Like, especially a Divas title match. That match, by large, wasn't bad. It was mostly good, but Flair throwing the jacket over Becky's head, I don't know how that doesn't result in a disqualification.
Yeah,
sure.
I can kind of see, because it wasn't like it was a huge, like, he draped it. He didn't throw it. He gently draped it. I mean, it's not like it was a huge foreign object kind of thing. Like, he used it to, coiled up to trip her up. Yeah,
but she can't see. Whether or not the severity of it is an issue, I don't think that enters into it. He interfered.
Do you need to see in a pinfall?
I think it would have been better.
Submission, though. She was in a submission.
Yeah, it was in. I mean, it's in a. Was the submission? Yeah, it was. But still, I mean, you're pulling back. You don't necessarily need to see.
If nothing else, the referee couldn't see what's going on. So who knows what's going on in the jacket? What kind of shenanigans Charlotte might be pulling to get out of it? If the ref can't see, like in hockey, if the ref can't see the puck, he stops the play. And
that's bullshit. They never see the goddamn puck.
That's how it's supposed to go.
I never see the puck.
That's on you. If the referee cannot see the puck, generally speaking, at least in the games I go to, they stop play.
It's only if it's covered up by players in this,
right
near the net. But if they can't see half the time they can't see the damn puck where it's going anyway.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If the players are on top of the puck and he can't see what's going on with it, he stops the play. If he can't see the action going on in the ring, he needs to stop that shit. Especially if it's a third party doing the interfering.
So I'm not arguing with you, Nick, because I felt the same way. Like, it was strange because that had a direct effect. But you see this, like, you see something similar all the time. So, someone's on the outside and pulls the ref out of the ring. They're not disqualified. Someone comes in and throws, like, I think it was Lana. She hopped on the apron and threw her shoe at someone, and she wasn't disqualified. Managers have tossed in a chair or slid in a weapon, and the ref has seen it happen. But unless the person they're sliding that to uses it, it's not a disqualification. And to me, it almost should be. But I don't know. That's just how WWE and wrestling in general has played these rules that, unless it's, one person, it's an opponent using a foreign object against the other opponent, it's not a disqualification. Like, that's the only time it is. And it is strange. It is a weird line that they continue to toe.
Yeah, at least they're consistently dumb.
Yeah, but at the same time, all that was a distraction. It wasn't because of Ric Flair doing that caused Becky to lose. Becky dropped the hold and stood up and confronted Rick, and that's when she turned her attention away from Charlotte, and Charlotte got the win. So, yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways as far as the disqualification argument goes, but WWE rules, it's not a disqualification.
I guess it's still dumb.
But let me say this though, I agree with you. That was a great match. Yes, Weasley cheaty win from Charlotte, but Becky still looks strong.
Oh yeah.
And it really showed overall that it seems like, just looking at the last few months in general, it does really look, I'm sorry, especially if you consider what happened at the end of that match when Sasha came out, this Divas Revolution that they, talked about months and months and months ago, I think it's finally happening where we have your top three being Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte. And that's great. Even if Charlotte looks like the cheaty Weasley heel and doing heel Ric Flair style things, I think that's okay considering the other two that are involved now.
Absolutely. And we would go on to see continuation on that on Raw. Sasha faced off against Becky, and Charlotte ran in and did to them what Sasha wound up doing to them at the Rumble. So, for sure, we're definitely going to be seeing a triple threat match, either at Fastlane or maybe they'd even put it off till WrestleMania.
Good.
Yeah, and that'll be fantastic. But I think we do need, this resurgence of what we said would be the Divas Revolution, because Nikki Bella is rumored to be going in for possibly career-ending neck surgery, is what I read.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I read too. At least 6 months out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not saying good. I'm glad, but I think it's time we have some more changeover in the Divas division, and to spotlight these three women is the way to do it, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, when you compare the Divas division to the rest of the different title races and everything, Nikki and Brie, those were like your top divas for a while, storyline wise, and despite them having career-ending surgeries or injuries in general, it really seemed like they handled the Divas division much better than they handled any other title race right now. Like, you look at the main event, and yeah, we do have Triple H as your champion. We do have Roman Reigns as the top guy, even though none of the fans like him. But that's all happening because WWE really wasn't prepared for not having Seth Rollins or John Cena or Daniel Bryan or, the Randy Orton or, any of the other top names that are out right now. So, it's actually strange that the Divas, made that move 4, 5, 6 months ago, whenever they brought the Divas Revolution in. Like, now they are prepared to really move forward despite, losing their top people.
Yeah, I think that's a case of serendipity on the WWE's part. They didn't push those three women nearly as much as they should have initially, but the fans were ready for it. And they'd been clamoring for it for a long time then. With Reigns, it's weird because initially, they were clamoring for it, at least in part. They were clamoring for all three members of the Shield to succeed and get up to that top level spot. But then they screwed Daniel Bryan over and they tried to push Roman Reigns instead, and we didn't want any of that. And, I don't want to say it's all an accident and the WWE still doesn't know good booking from the hole in the ground, but it really does feel like it's a big mix of the two, like planning and just random chance.
All right, so at the Royal Rumble, we had 2 titles change hands, 3 titles stayed the same. So are you okay with the titles that did change hands, are you okay with who are the new champions, or, would you have changed things up, not necessarily have Dean Ambrose retain or Charlotte or New Day? Curious. Now that we've seen the Royal Rumble and those matches, is there any decision that you would have changed out of those 5?
I would have changed the Intercontinental title. I think even given the Rumble, I think we have a little more potential. We had more storyline possibilities with Kevin Owens holding the title and having people come after him for it than I think we do with Dean Ambrose.
I'm okay with that belt not changing hands if I feel like Owens is going to be used a lot with AJ Styles. And, I feel like he's going to be cycling through a lot of guys, but Owens was the one to eliminate him from the Rumble, so I think there's going to be some history that they draw on there, and there's also going to be some chemistry that they draw on there. I'm extremely glad that Kalisto won the U.S. title back. Like we said earlier, ADR doesn't give a fuck, and Kalisto really could do a lot with that belt in those sorts of matches.
I don't mind that title changing hands, but it leaves me to wonder what the hell they're going to do with the League of Nations, because that was a perfect belt for the League of Nations to have.
I think they're just going to be playing back up to Triple H.
Which really, then, to me, it's not like the League of Nations. Like, the fact that they're all from other countries just kind of, it loses its impact if they're just going to be lackeys. To me, they don't stand out as much of a force.
Well, the original League of Nations didn't stand out much or last very long either, so they're being true to form.
Who was in the original one?
No, the real one. Like after World War I, they formed the League of Nations.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think back, and I'm like, well, TNA had World Elite, but sorry.
Yeah, it is strange though. If you consider like who's involved, you would think that they would be a little bit more higher profile or more involved in title races in general, not just lackeys to Vince McMahon. And yeah, it is kind of a shame that that's what they've been reduced to. Sheamus, while we generally dislike what he had done as a champion, the matches that he does have are still generally solid. Wade Barrett is a guy that we're always clamoring to see more of. Rusev, and I'll speak for myself, is a guy that I love in the ring. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame to think that that they aren't being pushed as individuals in those other title races. ADR, whatever, but outside of that, everyone has or should at least have a good spot in the company, not just being, the beefy guys behind Vince McMahon and Triple H.
Well, if you saw on Twitter, the League of Nations does have a champion among their ranks. Rusev is your new television champion.
Oh, yeah. And I love that idea. If they actually did something with it, and again, I didn't watch Raw this week, so I don't know.
They did not.
You'll have to fill me in. Okay.
He still had the monitor.
But if they did something with that, like even if it was just him being crazy, right, and thinking that this was an actual title, and he was doing like an open challenge type of thing for his TV championship, like that would be awesome.
I want him to put that thing on a belt just to legitimize it. One last title I'm not especially happy with changing hands is the top title. I don't like Triple H as champ. I don't like it when the guy in charge books himself to be champion. I thought it was ridiculous when Jarrett did it in TNA and kind of in GFW with the King of the Mountain title. And this just feels unnecessary to me with Triple H. Why wouldn't you have Sheamus win it back? Or why wouldn't you have Lesnar win it? We saw Stephanie and Heyman in negotiations. Why couldn't they just have arranged that?
I'm with you. Generally speaking, there's a lot of other people's, in kayfabe that you could have given it to through that story. You didn't necessarily have to put it on Triple H, but And again, I didn't watch Raw, so I don't know how they explained it. But at the same time, you look at how the story had gone thus far. Randy Orton failed them, generally speaking. Seth Rollins got injured, but he was also like not really on the same page with them all the time. So, making sure that they could choose who would hold the title. I guess I could understand that decision in kayfabe, why they would go that route.
Outside of kayfabe, I think it lends to the fact that they're not building enough guys.
Yeah, definitely. Or at least not trusting the guys that they are building to handle it. I mean, Bray Wyatt, my God, like they have built that guy up more over the last couple of months than like really ever before, and even in that match, even him to defy Triple H and attack him, like it had like everything aligned to that idea that he could be champion. And realistically, it's a shame that they didn't give him that opportunity. Hopefully it's different down the road, but it always seems like they are cutting him short of what he can really do.
I don't know what the hell is happening with Bray at this point. I thought the Rumble set up something between him and Lesnar perfectly, and then Raw is just a throwaway match against Kane.
Well, but Lesnar wasn't there, was he?
Lesnar did not show up on TV, but they booked the Fastlane main event and Lesnar's in it.
Okay.
It is.
Let's hold off. Let's hold off.
Yeah,
let's hold off talking about it. Okay. So, all right. Anything else as far as those title changes that you would have changed?
No, other than that, I think I'm good. I really would like to see Becky win, but, Charlotte retaining isn't bad, considering what we're getting.
I would have liked to see a different set of guys as the final four in the Rumble to entice me to be more excited about the title changing hands.
Well, the final four was what? Because the list that we have here is not accurate.
Yeah, Reigns,
what was the final four?
Ambrose, Triple H, and Sheamus?
Yeah, that's right. I don't know though. I mean, having Ambrose in there did add a bit of a new level of excitement for me. Just the thought that like, could they possibly be considering putting the top two titles on Ambrose? Like, how cool would that be? But yeah, having Sheamus in that final four, Triple H in that final four, obviously, I'm not necessarily for.
Even Kevin was not pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, even Triple H fans you can't necessarily be happy with with where this is going, just because of how generally mediocre WWE has been over the last year or two with their top stories and their top people. It just seems like they're not fully committed to building, like you said, Joe, like building those future stars, or at least giving them the opportunity. They're always cut short, whether that's Bray Wyatt or Dean Ambrose. They're always brought up to a certain point where you think like, yeah, we can finally get behind a guy that's going to be pushed solidly, and then they're pushed back down. So
silver lining, at least Jericho wasn't one of the final four. He was damn close, and he was a lot closer than he ever should have been, but at least he wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. I'm definitely happy with that. And just real quick before, because I do want to talk a little bit more about the Rumble match itself. As far as other matches that I would have changed the result to, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with Dean Ambrose retaining the IC title. The reason why I wanted Owens to lose was because of the potential that they could finally move him up into the world title race, because they do need a guy like Kevin Owens there right now. So I was okay with that. Generally speaking, I was okay with the other matches as well. As far as end result, I'm so happy New Day retained. So happy that because it was obviously pointing to the Usos taking the titles back to make it seem like there are more tag teams in that division than just the New Day. But I'm glad they stuck with the New Day, though.
Yeah, that freaking catch to close out the match, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun match to watch. And well, booty.
Yeah.
Usos booty.
So okay, the Rumble match. Nick and myself, we both picked Roman Reigns to win, just because, at least for me, looking at how WWE has told the story so far, that they're always trying to make Roman look stronger. It did make sense for him to go through the entire Royal Rumble to cement his place in the company. So it to me, it was the best story. Brock Lesnar, Joe, I think that would have been awesome. I love Brock Lesnar as champion. Obviously, we have Triple H, and we can talk about that as we segue into Raw. But first, let's talk about the other things that were built in the Rumble. And we'll start with the number 3 entrant, AJ Styles. AJ Styles was the guy that, was rumored to be with the company. I think all signs pointed that he was in the company. And then just the speculation of whether or not they would, quote unquote, waste a debut on a guy that probably no one would know except for smart fans, at a pay-per-view, rather than waiting until the Monday. So he debuted at the pay-per-view. I'm pretty confident the entire audience knew who AJ Styles was, and was as excited as I was to see him there and to see him doing some cool shit in the ring. So overall, knowing what we know now, do you think debuting AJ Styles at the number 3 entrant in the Royal Rumble was the good move?
I think so. I like the fact that Rusev was eliminated, so you only had one guy. You only had Roman Reigns in the ring. So when AJ came out, it was all about showcasing AJ. It was all about his entrance. There wasn't anything else to focus on except for Roman Reigns' face, as apparently the production truck thought was the only thing we really needed to see. Seriously, fucking Kevin Dunn, what the fuck? But like, AJ got to come out. You got to see the crowd pop. I'm sure Roman hasn't heard a pop in I don't know how many months. So,
well, it's always who he's facing, not him. So.
Right. So, but to watch AJ come out and cocky, and the fans were into it, and I think it was a cool way to display him. My thoughts on AJ in general in the Rumble and on Raw. I like the fact that they haven't let him use the Clash yet. I mean, they've mentioned it. Cole mentioned it at the Rumble that he's tried to. And
he tried.
He tried, and I like the fact. I mean, it's fine with me that they're kind of putting it off. Like, it'll be a big moment when he finally gets to hit it. But my impression of AJ in the Rumble is, or his match with Jericho on Raw was, I'm phoning it in now. Like, it just, there's a spark that's missing, and I don't know if it's that extra 2 feet of ring that's throwing him off. Unless TNA used a 20 by 20. At one point WWE was the only one using a 20 by 20. But that he just seems like a lot of times, even when he's running ropes or doing something, it's kind of like okay, I'm kind of swinging my arm, punch. All right, like there's a spark that's missing, and I don't know if it's part of the character that they're trying to come up. They're trying to develop. As the WWE AJ Styles, or if he's not necessarily in a groove for it. But to me, it seems like there's a little half-assing going on.
Yeah, and let me interject here. I mean, to me, I personally, I'm going to hold off judgment on it. I was not an AJ Styles fan when he was in TNA. I didn't understand why everyone was like so gung-ho about this guy, because his last few years were pretty mediocre. According to me. Now, but when he debuted in the Rumble, I didn't necessarily get that feeling. Now, again, I did not watch his Raw match against Jericho. But, to me, his kicks were really stiff for that first, 3-4 minutes. And it seemed like everything was more of that Japanese style. So, And to me, the Japanese style, and Nick, you probably have a different perception of this, but for me, it is a little slower. It's more, it's more implied impact. So there isn't a lot, at least with what I've seen from AJ in Japan outside of like, a few isolated spots, it does seem to be a little bit more, not necessarily lethargic, but, calculated almost. So to me, but, and outside of that, it is adjusting to the WWE style. There probably is going to be, some cautiousness, in allowing him to really go out and do what he can do.
First of all, I was excited to see AJ. I wasn't thinking that we would see him in the Rumble. If he was going to be coming at all, I figured it was going to be the Raw after. But seeing the way he came out, hearing the way that crowd popped, and looking back at some fan footage when you could actually see the Tron as the music was hitting, and just the way everybody went fucking nuts when it said, "I am phenomenal." That was something special.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I don't know if we're going to see that again for a while, to be honest.
And don't forget, he was in the Rumble for about 30 minutes, and the entire 30 minutes, everyone was chanting AJ.
Yes. Same thing on Raw. To kick off the show, you got AJ Styles chants during the Authority monologue. And a few other times throughout the night. People know who he is, and people want to see more of him. I don't get that perception of phoning it in. I don't think the Rumble's a great way to gauge how he's treating his time in the WWE. Yeah, we didn't see a whole lot from him, but I think that's just the nature of the beast with the Rumble. You're not going to see a lot of signature offense.
No, but and that I was fine with that to that extent, because there's a lot of bodies in that ring, and it's hard to do something. Although I would have liked, he didn't hit the Clash. That's fine. Usually you'll see a guy hit a finisher or something, especially when it's a debuting guy. You'll get to see it.
He got in the Pele.
Which is fine. Got a signature move in. That's fine. But on Raw, I didn't feel it, and I was really bummed out because I was super excited for AJ too. I was surprised we got a surprise entrant before number 7.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not trying to say like, oh fuck it, he's done. Oh fuck it. I'm still excited for AJ. I just like that watching that match with Jericho. I was like, really?
Well, but then again, is that AJ Styles or is that Chris Jericho? Because let's be honest, I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan, but he is really out of shape.
No, but
he's really out of shape.
But it's the way he was moving in the ring in general, even independent of Jericho.
I didn't see that. Those forearm shots looked vicious, especially when he's bouncing out the ropes and flying in. When he set up for the springboard flying forearm shot, the way he moved to the outside was just so fluid and quick. I didn't get mailing it in.
It just seemed like there's a spark that was missing. That's really what it was.
I think that's Jericho, and it was really hard to tell in that match if Jericho was intentionally sandbagging it or if he's just too old to hang. And B, I think it's just a matter of the WWE wants to throttle it a little bit, to kind of keep it scaled back, let things build up to where he is introducing more and more stuff.
Yeah, no, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I still think we need to give him at least a month or two before we really start to judge where he stands in WWE and what he can really still do at 38. I mean, we now know he's got about a 3-year contract. So he is definitely in this in the long haul. But yeah, I mean, I hope that what he was able to do in ROH and New Japan once he left TNA, that he'll continue to rise and do better than what he ever did in TNA, or at least in the last few years of TNA.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some matches against Kevin Owens, Kofi Kingston, Kalisto, guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
Neville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, I'm just thinking back to, like, how often has a guy debuted to the main roster that has been completely spectacular and, like, mind-blowingly awesome? I really can't think of anyone who was able to really showcase themselves and outshine a lot of the roster outside of Neville.
Owens is the only other guy I can think of.
Owens, sure.
I mean,
But Owens,
not since Jericho have we seen something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's what it sounds like you were looking for is kind of a rare thing, anyways. So, But yeah, I did like AJ Styles in the Rumble. I thought it was a good move. I'm glad that WWE realized that, that the crowd in general was excited, and that they were willing to give a guy like this a chance on the main roster. I mean, that in itself is rare, considering how high profile NXT has been as of late. So we've seen guys debut that could realistically do very well on the main roster, but they go to NXT first, whether that's Finn Balor or Hideo Itami or Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is a perfect guy that would kill on the main roster, but they still stuck him in NXT first. So
I think it was that IWGP heavyweight stint that did it. They always touted that about Lesnar and the fact that AJ's held that belt more often than Brock has. I think that sealed the deal in their mind.
Yeah. So, okay. So AJ Styles was in the Rumble for about 28 minutes. Was eliminated finally by Kevin Owens. What else? What else happened at the Rumble that, as far as names that were involved or that did well? What else stood out to you guys?
For the little amount of time that Owens spent in the match, I think he maximized that time. The way he came out limping, dragging his foot, selling his injuries from the last man standing match, and the fact that he did eliminate AJ. I don't think I would have been satisfied with anybody else doing that, considering that no one else in that match had that sort of history that Owens had. And the little parting shot, welcome to the WWE, AJ, and then toss. And also the way that Owens got eliminated. When Sami Zayn came in, and just the look of shock and rage and despair on Owens' face. Owens was absolutely the Royal Rumble MVP.
For sure. No, I'm in complete agreement. What he was able to do with Dean Ambrose when Dean Ambrose came in, I thought was great. Just in general, like, it did seem like a lot of the focus was on what Kevin Owens was doing, and he was only in there for maybe 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
But still, it seemed like Owens was in there for a while, just considering how much they talked about him and how much he did and who he faced off against. So, be it Sami Zayn or Dean Ambrose or AJ Styles, I'm with you. Kevin Owens was definitely a huge player in that match. But what about Sami Zayn? Did you like Sami Zayn being involved in this match as being like the quote unquote NXT participant?
I still contend that I probably would have liked it if somebody else had come up, like maybe Apollo Crews, maybe Baron Corbin would have been all right. But the way that they used him, especially with Owens, I think that was well done on their part, and I'm definitely satisfied with it.
Talking Zayn?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I like the way Sami Zayn was used in the Rumble. It gives a lot of, gives a lot more to draw on for it to spark with him and Kevin Owens, and gives us a good reminder that Sami Zayn is out there for those of the people who do not watch NXT. It's like, oh yeah, there's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to be like that Simpsons Lollapalooza episode where it's like, oh, here comes that guy. He's cool. Are you being sarcastic, man? I don't know anymore. But no, I'm excited for Sami Zayn. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his stuff now that he's back in NXT, and to see if they're going to pop him up on the main roster soon. So, I don't think they necessarily need to bring up anybody else. If anybody, it would have been Joe or Balor.
Yeah, Joe would have been an excellent one. I still contend that bringing up the NXT champion wouldn't have been the greatest move if you want to protect that title, that status. But yeah, having Finn Balor walk out in a spot where he could really utilize his entrance, that still would have been cool.
Well, that would have, hell, even if he would have won the Rumble, that would have just dropped a 3-way between Corbin, Joe, and I guess Cruz, right? Or Aries. Or Zayn, yeah. You've got a lot of options down there, so
yeah.
Especially if there's a vacant title, there could have been a nice little scrap for that.
Yeah, I didn't consider the possibility of him vacating the title in order to move up. That could have been okay.
Which is what they did when Paige came up and won the Divas title.
Yeah, that is true. Definitely a precedent for that.
Yeah, let's say there's definitely a precedent. So, I mean, it would be an option.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I was disappointed by the way Lesnar was used in this match. He got in some eliminations, but the way he got eliminated by the Wyatts, and he just did nothing. Like, he didn't even take out any frustration or anger out on Ziggler, who was the next guy to come out after he got eliminated.
I expected some trashing. I expected some trashing too. But actually, I was, as much as we thought that Brock was going to be a force to be reckoned with, I like the fact that they're almost humanizing him a bit, showing that he can be defeated. I do like that, and especially with him being in the main event for Fastlane. Okay, so they made the deal that way. So, hey, Brock, if you don't win here, don't get too pissed because you still got this other opportunity. So don't fuck it up by wrecking somebody. I really enjoyed the way the Wyatts were used, especially Luke Harper. Luke Harper got some good offense in. He's definitely the best guy next to Bray, if not better than Bray as far as ring work. Bray's definitely got the character, but
yeah, ring work. Harper is absolutely the best guy in that stable. But yeah, I was surprised by how well Harper did. I enjoyed the way Strowman was used, just taking out the two big heavies, Kane and Big Show, and all three of those guys played a decent role before Bray came in. So yeah, I won't complain about the way the Wyatts were used. Even the elimination of Lesnar himself, I like how it took essentially all four Wyatts to make that happen.
And don't forget Mark Henry. Mark Henry took a lot of them too.
Mm-hmm. My only issue with the Wyatts is just how awkward Braun Strowman looks out there.
Like, he is still extraordinarily green.
I know, but it's just so it's like they can't even like really hide it. Like it's just like he is the Eva Marie almost of the main roster as far as like how awkward he looks out there. And, I think in most cases it's passable, but like when he's going up against Brock Lesnar and it's obvious that Brock Lesnar is trying to clothesline him and he like doesn't know what's happening. It's like, I don't know. It's just, maybe that's just his character and he's a very good actor. But it just seems like he doesn't know like what he is supposed to be doing.
I've read, and it seems likely that Strowman is wrestling on lifts now, so that when he is in the ring with those big guys, he can be more or less on eye level with Big Show and Kane. So, like taking that clothesline and just being awkward in the ring, I think that's what it is. Because when he debuted, he wasn't awkward like that. He was looking pretty good for somebody that was jumped straight out of developmental into Raw. So, yeah, I think that's more on they're making him do something that, is physically awkward.
I don't know. If I got punched in the face by Brock Lesnar after like the third try of trying to knock him down, I would just go down, man. It just seems so weird. It just seems so weird, like the way he takes moves, and especially against a guy like Brock Lesnar.
I've never wrestled on stilts before. I don't know what I don't know what's involved in doing all that or making sure things don't get broken, things like that. So I couldn't say, but
yeah. Okay. Yeah, but overall, I think I was pretty happy with how the Wyatts were used, especially how Bray Wyatt stood up to Triple H at the end. I thought that was pretty fantastic. I'm trying to think of anyone else that really stood out. I think, on a negative side, and I think we were going to face this feeling regardless of who won that kickoff match. And although I was pleasantly surprised at how this kickoff match went and was going, just because originally when like the poster came out, I thought it was a 4-on-4 tag team match, not a four-way match. So I did like that it was 4 different teams, but regardless of who won and went into that position, I think we would have all been kind of upset with the amount of time that they were in the ring. But the fact that Mark Henry, who has come out and basically said that this is his last Royal Rumble, he's most likely going to retire either shortly after or he might stick around for WrestleMania. But for that to be like his last big match potentially, and being in there for 30 seconds and looking like worthless, that's really sad.
Yeah, it is. And it sucks that both those guys had 45 seconds between them. And at least Henry got to punch each Wyatt in the mouth before he got thrown out. But yeah, that is kind of sad.
Yeah.
I really did.
I mean, what else do you say about it? There really isn't a whole lot to say. It's a shame because Mark Henry always seemed to be coming up into his own every time they were giving him a push, and then something happened, some type of injury. We know he's a good worker. He's finally, like, he had the Hall of Pain. We were like excited to see him for I'm sorry, Mark, for the first time, because Sexual Chocolate, other than the jokes about it, it really wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think a lot of us would have rather seen Darren Young and Damian Sandow get that spot, but if they together only had 45 seconds in the Rumble, it would have been equally as sad. But I think just the fact that like it's Mark Henry, and you were still like wanting that Mark Henry that appeared in a pink tuxedo jacket and was retiring. Like we're still wanting that guy to be there who is great on the mic and vying for a top title. That's where Mark Henry should be, and for some reason he gets 30 seconds in the Royal Rumble. It's a shame. So yeah, just looking at overall times as far as people involved in the match, obviously the shortest was Jack Swagger at 15 seconds, followed by Mark Henry at 30 seconds. You had your joke character of the night, R-Truth, come out for 37 seconds. But I think overall everyone else spent at least a minute in the match. I think there was only two people that were close to that, and that was Curtis Axel. He was eliminated in a minute and 11, so finally eliminated after last year's Rumble. Rusev, who was number 2, no, he was eliminated.
He was eliminated from last year's Rumble. He's still in this year's Rumble.
That's true. You're okay. Right. Technically speaking, yes, you're right.
It is so dumb.
And then Rusev, your second entrant, was the first to be eliminated at a minute 30. So those were like your shortest. Everyone else was in, I think, for at least 4 minutes. Obviously, the longest in was Roman Reigns at 59 minutes. Chris Jericho was in for 50 minutes.
Gag.
Almost 51 minutes.
Let's be honest, Reigns wasn't in that long. You can't count the time he was stretchered out.
He was in the match,
sure.
59 and change, but yeah.
He hadn't been eliminated since, and that's the longest before an elimination, but...
Yeah. And ultimately, though, just looking back at what I thought last week about Roman Reigns, I couldn't imagine him staying active the entire match. So to me, it was okay. It was okay that he was removed because there was no way that he could last the entire event.
But when they did it, what they really should have done was have him actually stretchered out so that it made more of an impact when he did come back. Because to me, it was like he walked off under his own power. No, you're just going to take a break.
Yeah, and I agree with you because at first it was like they tried to stretch him out, he wouldn't, and then he kind of collapsed. So then they put him on the stretcher, and then he broke out of it and tried to walk again. And yeah, if like that's a good story to me. It's a good way to build him up as like a guy who just will not give up despite the fact that he just got his ass kicked by 3 people. I enjoy that. I think that's a good way to tell a story about how strong Roman Reigns is. At the same time, yeah, you're right. If he would have finally like collapsed a third time and they forced him onto the stretcher so that they can, give him medical attention, I think that would have been good. It would have explained why he was out of the match for as long as he did, was. Otherwise, where was he? They never really explained that. What did they finally force him into the medical office, or was he just walking around the backstage, or what? I mean,
yeah, I just assumed he.
That is like a weird loophole.
Also,
well, we assume that, but he never.
You take a guy that big, you take him to the vet. You don't take him to the doctor.
Somebody I think on Reddit pointed out, and I think it was a good point, that it was smart to have Reigns removed from the ring for the time that he was out, just given who got eliminated in that time frame. You had Owens get eliminated, AJ, Sami Zayn, a couple other fan favorites. If Reigns had been present, if those guys were dropping but he was still in it, or worse yet, in the eyes of some fans, Reigns was doing the eliminating, then you would have had everybody turning on Reigns that much harder. So, if nothing else with this match, I don't like the finish, but I appreciate the fact that the WWE finally recognized where they were, who those fans are backing, and they played to those fans. Maybe if only those fans in the arena, but they finally clicked with somebody.
Yeah, it was smart. It was incredibly smart. Especially because, the people that we did like, they were eliminated by other people that generally we do like. So, you've got Kevin Owens. He was eliminated by Sami Zayn. You've got AJ Styles, who was eliminated by Kevin Owens. You got Brock Lesnar, who was eliminated effectively by, the Wyatt family. The only one that stands outside of that is Bray Wyatt being eliminated by Triple H and Sheamus. But, that's one that I can live with.
Triple H, I think that's NXT's backyard. And I understand the desire to cheer for the guy that, on the face of it, is leading that charge with NXT. I think that's a crock. I don't get it. I don't like it. But, I get the reasoning behind that decision.
I'm just going through this list, and, as far as who Roman Reigns eliminated, I'm actually okay with all of these names. Rusev.
Yeah, Miz.
The Miz. ADR. Sheamus. Sure, dude. Like, whatever. I mean, like, Rusev maybe, but placement-wise, I was okay with it. And AJ was sort of involved in that, too. But, yeah, overall, they booked this very intelligently. The ending, though, yes, with Triple H winning, I don't know if I can't necessarily agree with that.
If even Kevin can't agree with it, it says a lot.
But what that ending did not do for me, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it didn't ruin the pay-per-view for me. Like, I was kind of disappointed. Once he came out at 30, like, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. Either he was going to win or Roman Reigns was going to win over him. But despite that, like, I still think the pay-per-view in itself spoke for itself, and a lot of people got a lot more time than they've been able to get before, and in a good way. So overall, what did you guys think about Royal Rumble? Was it a good event? Was it a good way to start 2016?
I feel the pay-per-view itself was a good way to start. I wasn't happy. Like you said, we're not happy with the outcome. But the event as a whole was fantastic. My only big complaint is with the ending, and that's me. That's what it's supposed to do, though. It's supposed to give me a reason to get mad and want to see more. Want to see Triple H in this case give the beatdown, and in that aspect, I'm okay with it. I just was not happy with those last competitors. You knew looking at those competitors that Triple H was going to win. There was not even a second thought to any of those other guys when you came down to the final four.
Yeah. On the whole, I don't think this is a bad show. The finishes of the last two matches kind of soured me on it. And there were missteps made during the Rumble. As we've gone on at length, Triple H winning, but also there were a few other things, like the way they handled Roman Reigns. Yeah, it was the right decision, but there are better ways he could have gone about it. And Jericho being in as long as he was, to the detriment of several others. The way they didn't show Kofi Kingston's elimination. It was Jericho that eliminated him, by the way, that prick. So,
yeah,
it was just several minor missteps that just added up and made me think, man, this could have been better. But looking back on it with the benefit of hindsight, at least they improved it to the point where the WWE wasn't getting booed out of the building. There were no hashtag cancel the WWE Network movements. They did actually manage to please a segment of the audience, and it was the one that was there. So, I recognize where they improved, and yeah, it was better than the last two Rumbles for sure.
Sorry, forget that. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys in general. Overall, I'm with you guys. And yeah, I think ultimately the one thing that I read that I really agreed with, and it probably is something that I would have changed as far as the Rumble itself, is I would have swapped AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. I think that was something written either on Reddit or maybe in the Facebook group, but someone suggested the same thing, like having AJ in the match for, 50 minutes would have been great to really show how durable he is and what he can do. And that he is one of those top guys. Jericho didn't need to be there for as much as he was. A lot of times you looked and Jericho was just laying down. But then again, it's the Rumble. I mean, that's how the Rumble is. Like, no one is ever active the entire time that they're there.
Yeah, and AJ...
All right, that would have been the one change.
Yeah, AJ is one of those guys that can go that long. In New Japan,
yeah,
for the big title matches, they have a 60-minute time limit. And,
yeah,
the Rumble didn't go quite that long. And some of AJ's matches have gotten close to that mark. So, yeah, you could have easily counted on him to do that.
So...
Yeah, and... Go ahead.
We had... Well, I was going to say, we supposedly had 6 former Royal Rumble winners in the match. Did we ever figure out all 6?
You know what? The wording that they used at the Rumble was altered a bit. It wasn't that there were going to be 6, that there were going to be up to 6. Now, that doesn't necessarily change anything for me, but yeah, I just looking at the list of who was entered, I mean, you've got Jericho, you've got Reigns.
Did Jericho win a Rumble?
Former Rumble winners?
Rumble winners.
No. It wasn't the Rumble winners that was in question. It was 6 former world top champions, I thought.
Because we were debating all last week, and it was who won the Rumble previously.
That's true. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm thinking back, and we did argue that as well. I don't know. I don't know if 6 were entered.
Triple H.
I don't think so because you were thinking, yeah, obviously Triple H, Sheamus, ADR, Roman Reigns. Those are your 4 definites. You also had Brock Lesnar. That's 5. But I don't think we did get that 6th. That 6th would have been what?
Triple H, Sheamus, ADR, Roman.
Yeah.
Triple H, Sheamus, ADR, Roman. Lesnar, because he did.
That's 5.
And who was he?
Right. It's that 6. Who was that 6? And I don't think we.
I thought we went as you were going over it. I caught the 6th one.
No, because I'm going through the list right now, and I don't think there was a 6th.
Nah.
Damn. Okay.
But real quick, and I think Joe, it was you that said this, but like the camera work during that match was pretty awful. Yeah, they didn't show Kofi's loss and elimination, and they didn't show. They never showed. Well, I'm sorry. There was something happening at ringside right in front of the commentary, and I cannot recall what was taking place because all they were talking about was the fact that Roman Reigns was almost eliminated on the other side of the ring. So it's like we didn't see that. I think it was like Kane and Roman Reigns or something like that. And that's what they were talking about. They weren't talking about what was happening right in front of them.
Yeah, camera work that whole show was pretty bad. I've seen a lot of rumors being reported, Dave Meltzer, that part of the production team was stuck in New York, and that's what they're blaming it on. But, Full Sail's right there. You can get the NXT crew in there. They're arguably better than the main roster staff anyway. So I don't think that gives them a pass.
No. And I just double checked, and we only had 5 former Royal Rumble winners.
Okay.
So, but okay. Well, let's, before we segue on, let's talk about predictions. We obviously did not predict the kickoff match because that was announced later on in the week. But we did predict pretty much everything else. So, let me add these up real quick. 1, 2. So, with 2 correct picks, with 0 correct picks at the bottom is Joe. So, congrats, Joe.
Well, apparently that's my new role. I get the Harrison role.
Hooray,
You want or the Lions from a few years ago. I mean, you just want to keep rooting for that home team.
How'd the Browns do this year, man?
We're talking predictions here.
Go,
then Nick with 2 correct picks successfully picked Ambrose to retain and Kalisto to win. Yeah. And then I had 4 correct picks, basically all the title matches except for the Royal Rumble. So that is it. We do not have the full calculations of where we stand for the year, which is WrestleMania to WrestleMania for us. But we'll update you a little bit later on. Maybe probably after Fastlane is when we'll make that final announcement before WrestleMania. So, okay, Raw. Let's move on to Raw. What happened on Raw worth talking about, guys?
The main event for Fastlane was announced.
Okay.
Which is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Correct, Nick? For some reason I had a brain fart about Roman Reigns being in it.
It was a triple threat, right?
Yeah.
Who's the third guy? Apparently I watched... Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, apparently so unenthused.
And that's who's going to face Triple H at WrestleMania?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. One thing that deadened my brain was the very long Rock segment, where Rock just grabbed the mic. It's like, "Hey, we're going off script," and he starts talking with people in the crowd, and it's going very badly. And I mean, he did all kinds of stuff, talking on the mic, and it was like, okay, Rock, where are you going with this? Because this is kind of you kind of don't have the flow going. You need to come back.
Yeah, but for Garvin's benefit and those that didn't watch Raw, it was another one of those post-pay-per-view crowds that wanted to hijack the show. And there were 4 guys in costume that were at the forefront of it, dressed up as Taker, Hogan, Savage, and The Rock. And they kicked up enough of a ruckus that both arena security and the police moved them during a commercial break to the other side of the arena. And the crowd was rowdy about it. They were getting up in arms about it, and The Rock addressed it. And I'm of mixed feelings about it. I don't like those kinds of assholes getting that sort of attention, but it did diffuse the situation, so props to Rock.
And it's just funny. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny hearing you describe it because, we had 4 guys that were dressed up as wrestlers 4 to 6 months ago that they weren't escorted out or moved to a different section. They were like forced to wear like John Cena gear and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we argued with WWE at that point about that idea of not allowing fans to, demonstrate fandom for former wrestlers or current wrestlers. Some were dressed as Undertaker or whatever, whatever that they were doing. Instead put him in John Cena gear. They moved him off camera. So do you see this as a worse thing for WWE to do
in this case
than putting him in John Cena gear?
In this case, I wanted them out, just flat on out. I don't think those guys 6 months or so ago were actively disrupting the show like these guys were. These guys were sitting in the front row, and they were very obnoxious, very attention-getting, and, it was just a matter of time before somebody did something about it. So frankly, I don't think the WWE did enough in that regard. I don't think The Rock ever should have had to go off script and try to defuse that situation.
Well, I mean, no, he didn't need to at any point. There's not a single point where he needed to, because that's what the arena security is supposed to do. That's everybody else. It's not his job.
Well, it was the entire crowd at large, because even with The Rock's hometown, they were still chanting Randy Savage during his bit, because those assholes were still kicking up. They'd set something off that the crowd was still carrying on with.
But still, did that segment need to be that freaking long?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's what I found obnoxious. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I thought it was funny that he went out there and did that because I didn't note that, people were getting that rowdy about them. But, it was just extraordinarily long for New Day to eventually come out. And then you had the Usos come out and they all beat up on New Day. It's like, what's the point? Unless Brock's coming back. Not Brock. Rock is coming back. Same damn thing, right? Part-timer. Unless Rock's coming back for a triple threat at WrestleMania.
I don't think The Rock is going to be in a match at Mania. I think he is going to be there. He said so himself. But whenever The Rock is there and he's going to be announced, it's generally been for a match. So I don't know if it's going to be another stunt like he did with Rousey last year or what. But
okay, so real quick, let me interject two things. First, you don't mean triple threat. You mean like a trios tag match, Joe, or Rock is teaming up with
six-man tag.
Okay, yeah, there we go. So okay, there's that, and then generally, we are always anti the crowd. I think in most cases. And yes, the crowd can get super annoying and try to take over stuff. And usually, when we are really disgusted with it is when there was something happening in the ring that was worth watching that they've disrupted with their, wanting to take the show over. So, yes, Nick, I mean, you're obviously against the crowd doing that this time. As far as trying to take the show over. But Joe, you say it's generally because of what was happening at the time was just so lame and obnoxious as far as The Rock goes. So what was it? I mean, was it the crowd taking over because they wanted to take over? Or was it the crowd taking over because the show was so terrible?
I didn't notice the crowd taking over, so I can't speak to that part.
The crowd was reacting to what those four guys were doing. It wasn't The Rock because he was out there for maybe a minute. The in-ring stuff was preceded by his backstage arrival, during which he was talking and interacting with people for maybe 2 minutes. But he wasn't out there for longer than a minute before they were chanting Randy Savage in response to the assholes, and he decided to cut that off. And then after he got done interacting with them, it was maybe another 30 seconds, maybe 45 before the New Day came out. So, the on-script portions, it was maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
So, again, though, I'm asking, was Raw terrible? Was Raw terrible enough for the crowd to take over because of that?
No. It was an all right show. It wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't terrible.
Okay. And we also set up a Divas title triple threat too?
Yes. Furthering of what happened at the Rumble. Becky faced off against Sasha, and that was a pretty good match before Charlotte interrupted it and caused a DQ finish. So it's not official, but it's pretty evident that they are setting up that match. Whether it's for Fastlane or WrestleMania remains to be seen. And Ric Flair was nowhere to be seen, as far as I can remember, so that is a plus.
So, real quick, the Divas, the NXT Women's Division, they are given the opportunity to go out and do awesome things without, much from distracting it. Especially Becky versus Sasha, they got a full 30-minute Iron Woman match. Now you add Charlotte to that mix. Do you think that WWE will allow them to have a 20 to 30-minute match at Fastlane, or do you think that this is going to be very, very similar to what we've seen in years past with the Divas division, as far as time limit goes?
They're going to get more time, but I don't think they're getting like 20, 30 minutes.
They won't get any less than 15. I am absolutely confident in that. I would say they're going to get at least 20, just given who is involved and the fact that, even on the main roster, booking styles are changing. Pun intended, because you've got somebody that hasn't spent a second at developmental debuting at the Rumble. That used to never happen, with the exception of Sting.
Well, in recent times, yes.
Yeah.
In recent times,
ever since developmental got set up and they said there won't be any more straight to the main roster debuts. Everybody has to go through developmental.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As far as other things that happen on Raw, we don't have to discuss this at length because it was a throwaway segment to begin with, but Flo Rida was there to pimp out the new WrestleMania theme, which, as per usual, is hot garbage, and it was with the Social Outcasts. So it was throwaway, but there was a rap battle between Flo Rida and Bo Rida, and Bo blew that doofus out of the water. There's actually a poll on WWE.com right now where you can go vote and decide who you think won, and Bo is crushing it.
Bo totally won.
Yeah, everything that I've read suggests that Bo won that. So
there's a Full House reference. It was glorious.
Way to go, Danny Tanner.
All right, so we only got a little bit more time left. Anything you guys want to talk about before win fail?
There were two things that have happened. One in NXT. We've got part 2, or maybe just a continuation of part 1 between Apollo Crews and Finn Balor. Not for the title, but it is for the rest of the marbles, for Pride, I guess you could say. So that's going to be fun. And just a little bit of trivia. On the same night as the Royal Rumble, Evolve crowned its first ever tag team champions, which were Johnny Gargano and Drew Galloway, which is pretty interesting considering that Johnny Gargano is essentially NXT talent now, and Drew Galloway has a contract with TNA. So
yeah, but let's also keep in context that this is Evolve, and WWE has made very clear that they are with Evolve in some way. I mean, Triple H came out with every positive thing that he said about what they were doing down there. William Regal has been down there. You also had Sami Zayn. So there obviously is a partnership. But at the same time, yes, having an NXT guy with a TNA guy is rather interesting, especially a former WWE guy who is now in TNA. So yeah, that is kind of strange, and it almost makes you wonder why Drew was there, like why. Like, knowing that there is an obvious relationship between Evolve and WWE, that TNA would still allow one of its top talents to take part in an event like that.
Evolve doesn't do TV. I think that's the clincher, and TNA talent is reportedly still able to honor booking commitments up through May. So yeah, Evolve technically is still an independent company. So I think that's why.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, let's go into win, fail.
Women wrestlers aren't getting paid? Why do you do a job?
Here is your win.
You do any job,
and fail
is to fucking get paid!
Of the week. For those joining us for the first time, hey, this is our 300th episode. What took you so long? Yeah, but anyways, Winfill is our chance to acknowledge both the best things that happened and the worst things that happened this week in WWE and NXT. So let's get right into it. Nick, what was your win of the week?
Kevin Owens, hands down for me. Like I said before, he's absolutely the MVP of the Royal Rumble. The entire show. The first thing he did essentially was get thrown over the commentary table, and he just screwed with Cole so bad, just falling directly onto him and continuing to mess with him while he's down. He actually broke Cole's glasses and sparked actual emotion out of that man. Cole was absolutely on the Ambrose bandwagon. It was hilarious. I enjoyed that so deeply. And just everything that followed after that. Owens is on fire right now.
Joe, your win of the week?
My win of the week is going to be Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, I think, did a wonderful job in the Royal Rumble. I think the Wyatt family itself did a great job telling the story they wanted to. And I like the fact that like Bray attacked Triple H when you wouldn't expect that. Bray tried to make alliances with guys and did in the Rumble. I'm liking what he's been doing, and I think he stood out very well as being pretty strong in the Rumble, which was very nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my win of the week is twofold. The first is just the fact that, we got AJ Styles and that WWE took the gamble that they did to put him on the main roster and put him in the Rumble in the place that they did. I thought was great. And especially the crowd's reaction for the full 30 minutes that he was out there. I thought overall, the way they handled AJ Styles was great. So, it's a win for AJ and AJ's fans, but it's also a win for WWE for finally doing something properly. And just to touch on something real quick, Joe, you had mentioned this before, but, just the idea that they haven't allowed him to do the Styles Clash, yes, they've teased it, they've talked about it, but he hasn't done it yet. And I think that's a great way to really sell the legitimacy of that move. Like, just think about, what NXT did with Hideo Itami. They always seem to tease the GTS. Him doing the, CM Punk's finisher. They always teased it, but we haven't seen it yet. It always got brought up in a match. It always seemed like he was going to go for it, but it always got stopped. So, I think that definitely builds how devastating the move is and how great of a finisher that is, especially in a time, realistically, where finishers mean absolutely nothing. I mean, how often do finishers get kicked out of now? So for them to build up how big a move is by holding it off, I think is a great move. So I hope that's something that they continue to do with him, just the way that they did the same thing with Hideo Itami. So total wins on both AJ Styles and WWE surrounding his debut with the company. Fails. Nick, your fail of the week?
Without a doubt, Chris Jericho. His performance in the Rumble, how long he lasted, that was criminal. I don't understand why the WWE has such a hard-on for inserting him into all the top or hot angles. You had him with Neville and Beast in the East, where Jericho went over for God knows what reason. And the 6-man tag match with Ambrose and Reigns, where Jericho just was a dick to them afterward, and we never got anything from that. The way he's been handling the New Day. Legitimately, those are the only segments by the New Day in the last, year that I haven't enjoyed, are the ones with Jericho in them. And now this, where he's sandbagging AJ Styles, be it intentional or not. The guy is obviously out of shape. He can't hang, either can't or won't. And the way he treated AJ, I get that was part of the act where, AJ Styles has been big everywhere else, but this is the big time. But kid, not only has he spent 18 years in the business, but he's 38. I get that Jericho's old in the dirt, but, make it believable a little bit. So Jericho could go away forever as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it is disappointing. It is disappointing, again, as huge of a Chris Jericho fan that I've been. But yeah, I think especially him calling AJ Styles a kid is really disingenuous. Again, considering everything that he's done, considering that Chris Jericho is not 10 years older than him. He's less than 10 years older than him. But it's also, playing into the idea that no one knows who AJ Styles is, and that is not the case.
Yeah, and commentary's been playing this weird game where they're acknowledging how big of a deal he is, but at the same time, you would hear JBL and Cole refer to him as, man, this kid can really go, can't he? The same way they talk about Neville or somebody else fresh up from NXT, not somebody that's held more top titles than Jericho or even Lesnar. This dude's legit, and you're talking about how he just walked in off the street.
Yeah, but in their eyes, he's a young kid. He's you got to remember, their ecosystem they haven't seen him before ever.
I can acknowledge that, but then again, the same could have been said of Sting, and they never once did that.
Well, you can't necessarily call Sting a kid. He's definitely very old.
Exactly. AJ is closer to 40 than he is to 30.
Yeah, but he doesn't look old. I mean, AJ looks like he could go for a long time.
And he's definitely not Jericho old.
Yeah. All right, Joe, your fail of the week.
My fail of the week is Reigns' essential nap. The fact that they pulled him out for as long as they did before he came back, it just soured the crowd. I mean, they could have done that had he been, maybe there could have been some type of bigger bump that he would have taken to get him to that point. It just, or something like it didn't seem like the fact that he still walked out under his own power. It still is like, well, you shouldn't be gone that long then. And he was gone for too damn long.
Yeah. And that's WWE storytelling. I mean, that's really their inability to tell good stories. I mean, you could say that for a lot of the endings of matches. The one that really stands out to me is Ryback versus John Cena, Last Man Standing, when, John Cena was just walking around after that match as if like nothing happened. To me, that's a major downfall of WWE. I wouldn't necessarily blame Reigns for that, specifically, but yeah, I'm totally with you. As far as fails for me this week, I think my fail, just going off of what we talked about for the Royal Rumble, Mark Henry only getting 30 seconds in what could potentially be his last big match in the company, I thought was just a major shame. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter that he was in the kickoff match and that, any of those people could have advanced and been in the same boat. But just to do that to Mark Henry, and realistically just how they've handled Mark Henry for the last 3 or 4 years, it's like they never really put him in the spot that he earned. So yeah, I think overall if this is Mark Henry's last match, like wow, they totally did a disservice to him and to us fans who really like him. So okay, final thoughts. Let's go ahead and close up tonight's conversation. We want to thank everyone who normally takes part in our live conversation this week. We did not do a live show only because I am working remotely in the middle of nowhere, Florida. So I do not have the same abilities or same internet access to be able to handle a live thing. But in 2 weeks when I return, you can go to fanstalkpodcast.com/live. We record just about every episode of FTPW live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. The same thing for Fans Talk TNA. It will not be live the next 2 weeks, but generally speaking, that is also live Wednesdays right around 8 p.m. as well. But there is an audio feed and a chat, and we always love interacting with you guys as we do the recording for each episode. So, Joe, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, sir.
Nick?
Yes, one last call to action. If this poll is still up when this show goes in iTunes and everywhere else where you can get it, go to WWE.com. Go to the poll, who won the rap battle. Vote for Bo, because as we mentioned before, he crushed it. He crushed that talentless hack Flo Rida. And maybe if enough people vote for Bo, maybe we will never get another Flo Rida track as a pay-per-view theme again. Maybe.
One can only hope.
Yeah. All right. This series, as well as the rest of the podcast released through the fanstalkpodcast.com family, are supported exclusively by you, our listeners, and our Patreon subscribers. And you can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month. That money goes to keeping us afloat. You're helping us pay for the recording, the hosting, the distribution of these episodes. So if you want to keep seeing Fans Talk Pro Wrestling go live every single week, as well as everything else that we do with the Fans Talk podcast family, definitely support us. This is your direct contact to us. So if you like what we're doing, let us know. Donate $1 or more a month. The more you donate, there's some more perks for you. So at $1, you get early access to content. The higher you go, the more stuff you get, like we do Squared Circle of Trust content at least once or twice a month. We're going to start picking that up again very soon. And then, all kinds of other cool stuff that's available. Again, you can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month. And all of that is available at fanstalkprowrestling.com. Click the big green button, and that'll take you to our Patreon page. For Nick, Joe, my name is Garvin, and we will see you next Tuesday. Later. Fans Talk Pro Wrestling is part of the Fans Talk Podcast family and can be found at fanstalkprowrestling.com. The Fans Talk Podcast family is a subsidiary of Tigar Creative, LLC.